to Inks and Issues, a podcast where we do in-depth discussions on a single comic book. I'm your host, Jonah Gregory, and with me as always, my co-host, Kieran Bennett.
Hi, my name's Kieran, and my riddle that captures the city is... Why do I never think about this beforehand?
I don't know.
Why do I never think about this beforehand? I mean, I do, like the 2 seconds before you do the intro, and then 50% of the time it goes fine, and then the other 50% of the time I'm paralyzed by fear and I can't say anything.
You could write them down ahead of time.
That would be very stupid.
I wouldn't think less of you.
I would think less of me.
Okay, well, that's fair. And today we will be talking about Batman 0 Year. And the reason for this is because this is our 52nd episode. And
1 year of podcasting.
Yeah, 1 year of podcasting. And it comes out perfectly to our 1 year anniversary, right?
Yep, surely does.
Certainly not coming up on our 2nd year anniversary.
Nope, it's the 26th of January, 2018.
Yes. This is a blast from the past. And if you have not gone back and listened, our very first episode was Batman Year 1. So I thought, well, I mean, I don't know how it came up. We were stupidly saying, like, wouldn't it be hilarious if we covered Year 0 for the 52nd episode?
Yeah, I think I'm going to mention it at the end, and then even as the podcast continued going and we reviewed more and more Batman and other stuff, I was like, no, we have to stick to that one arbitrary promise that we made all the way back in 2017.
Yeah. Well, the good news is we will be known as having stuck to our stupid promises. Exactly.
Because everyone knows that podcasts are a legally binding legal medium.
Yes. But I do have to say, after this episode, we're probably going to take a bit of a Batman break for quite some time, because looking back at our first year, singular year of podcasting,
the 1 year that we've done,
we've reviewed a hell of a lot of Batman.
A lot of Batman. It's almost like we both like Batman or something, or there's a lot of Batman stories out there.
Well, and he shows up in a lot of other things we've reviewed with
very true.
Justice League stuff, and he's just kind of around a lot. He's sometimes he's a popular character, and they put out a lot of content, so we both enjoy it. We know, like, I would say more often than not, we come out enjoying a comic with Batman in it. So I think we're safe to going into our 2nd year of podcasting. We're going
Here we go.
We have some stuff we've been wanting to cover. We've had a few requests for, like, hey, what about the comics that are based on things like Doctor Who and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, I'd be down with looking into some of those. And I'm gonna make you read some Planet of the Apes comics. I know that's coming. So
you said that like it's a punishment. I enjoyed Planet of the Apes. It was a good movie.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorites. And I was very happy to find out that the new trilogy they did is amazing. Like, I was I avoided them for so long because I was like, there's no way these could be good. And it turns out it's some of the best movies Fox has made in, like, years, other than, like, Logan being amazing.
That's good too.
Yeah. And they just kind of did nothing with it. They didn't really promote it very heavily, I feel like. It just kind of came and went.
No, which is a shame, because, like, everyone that I know who's seen them has been like, oh, yeah, those are really good movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as someone who's a huge fan of the original, and I'm sure I'm in the same boat as most people that thought the Tim Burton one was a steaming pile of dog poop, but I actually was hanging out with some friends, and we had tickets to, like, the minor league baseball team in our city from my work, and so we all went, just to kind of hang out and eat crappy stadium food and watch a baseball game. And partway through, some of my friends were like, do you want to just go see Planet of the Apes? And we're all like, yeah, we should probably just go do that instead. But it turned out it was worse than finishing the boring minor league baseball game. That's
what you get for abandoning the team halfway through.
I know. I'm sorry, the Aqua Sox. That is their name, but
that's a good name, though. That's a good name.
So yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, that's we also want to dive more into some indie stuff like we like to do. So that's what we can look for in Eggs and Issues Year 2. But
Year 2. Year 2.
I'm going to assume that neither of us have had a chance to read anything else, because this book that we're talking about today was quite a bit beefier than I was expecting.
Same. It was quite a lot beefier than I was expecting.
Yeah, when you have the digital editions, it's like very deceptive. You're like, oh, that's only like 100 pages or so. That's not that much. And then you're like, oh, wait, there's 2 volumes and the second one's way longer. So I guess I will not be reading other things before the podcast because I do not have time. In fact, we started about an hour late because I was still trying to finish the book. So, yeah, that's, the day kind of got away from me. But I got in a very good nap. So,
well, I guess that makes it okay.
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't, I'd probably be asleep right now. So, but that's me, fair. Early to bed, early to rise, right?
Yeah, people do say that about you. They're like, that Jonah, he's always going to bed at a reasonable time.
Yep. So my daughter at school, they did this for Father's Day, and it's amazing because it's, it's like her perspective on me, essentially. And it's this like adorable little thing. It says, my awesome dad. So it says, she basically guessed on my age and height and stuff. She was close. So here's some stats on me, in case you're wondering. Favorite food, hamburgers. My favorite drink, grown-up drinks. My favorite movie is Star Wars.
Grown-up drinks. I love it.
Let's see. I can't quite understand what she put down for favorite song. Even the teacher put a question mark on that one. Not sure what she was going for. Favorite chore? None.
I mean, fair. Same.
Yes. If I had to pick, vacuuming. He wishes he could, and this is the most adorable thing, spend time with us. And there's a drawing of us on the couch watching TV together. Cute. Okay, so here's the best part. He really dislikes getting up. And there's a big thing that says, no thanks at the bottom. And 5 reasons why my daughter loves me. Number 1, you are awesome. Number 2, you help me. Number 3, you care for me. Let's see. Number 4, you cook for me. And nice. Number 5, you clean my scratches. So I keep that on my desk for those days where things get hard and you're like feeling like a garbage person that's terrible. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, well, I guess my kids like me, so that's fine. But the getting up and no thanks thing.
No thanks.
Yeah. It's very accurate to me on the weekends when they're like, you should get up and play with us. I'm like, it's only like 8:30 on a Saturday. I don't think this is happening.
Having stayed at your place, your kids do enjoy playtime in the morning.
Yes.
Very specifically.
That is when they're all about wanting to get you to play Mario with them. Put down your tea, Kira.
Oh, yeah. Put down you can drink your tea and play Mario at the same time. At least you would if you weren't a coward.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into this comic book. Do you have any fun facts for us about Batman Zero Year?
I mean, not really fun facts, but, I can tell you about it. So Batman Zero Year began in June 2013 and ended in July 2014, and is the Scott Snyder DC New 52 run of Batman, running from Batman number 21 to 27 and then 29 to 33, with number 28 being a tie-in to the 52-issue long Batman Eternal, which was a big weekly series they did. Mm-hmm. And it was going to be part of Zero Year. And then Scott Snyder was like, nah, I've already written too much and I don't want to shove it into another issue. And also, Greg Capullo, who did the art, needs more time to draw some stuff that I wrote. So we're just going to make it part of Batman Eternal instead, which is a pretty good series if you're like mad into Batman. We will never review it because it is insanely long.
Yeah, 52 issues, I hear.
52 issues, yeah, 52 individual issues. It's
that's ridiculous. A lot. That's a lot of issues.
Yeah. Yes. So, Zero Year was kind of their attempt, or Scott Snyder's attempt to redefine the origin of Batman. As kind of, it's as we incorrectly stated in our very first episode. I know, obviously, you know, our mega fans will call us out for this. It is not a prequel or a sequel to Year One. It is a retelling of the story. It is a redefining of the origin story of Batman.
Right, which is the thing that confused me greatly when I first started reading it.
Me too. I did not realize this.
Would this have been the one running in parallel with the Wonder Woman reboot that we had talked about a long time ago? Where the one volume is like the origin and the other volume's the one that we mistakenly covered because we thought it was going to be the origin?
No, that one is DC Rebirth, which came like 6 years later.
Oh, okay. That's where it gets very confusing because they've rebooted
so the one that we
times
covered
here.
Was from like 2017 and this is from 2013. So.
Okay. I just wanted to check because I get very muddy on those big event timeline reboot things because I'm not current. I never am. I'm just like, this trade sounds cool, so I'll pick it up and read it.
So the New 52 was launched all the way back in near the end of 2010, 2011. Mm-hmm. And went for like 5 or 6 years, and then they did Flashpoint, and then they did DC Rebirth, which is still what they're still doing now.
Okay, so that is still the current version of
that's the current.
Okay, and that's the one that Metal messed with when we went through that.
Yes. Metal exists within DC Rebirth.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It all makes sense now.
It does. It does. It does. That's all my fun facts for the week.
Yay, we did it. All right, so this is broken into 3 parts: Secret City, Dark City, and Savage City. So what we're going to do to kind of follow our newer format of summarizing and then discussing, instead of trying to go through kind of page by page and hit every point, because that takes way too long. We're going to break this into the sections as they were presented. So we're going to go through Secret City first. So I guess I will take that one. And this opens with, Gotham City has been destroyed in a flood. Batman is believed to be dead. 5 months before the flood, we see Bruce Wayne return to Gotham City after being away for so long that he's been declared dead. He dons a disguise and fights the Red Hood, as he's called in this one, Red Hood 1, because they're all numbered, I guess.
He's got like a big round pointy penis hat, and the rest of them just have masks.
Right. So he's the ringleader. And yeah, they're all numbered, I guess, based on the number they joined the gang, which is like very stonecutters of them.
In the back of the Comixology version, Scott Snyder actually reveals that their numbers are based on how many toes they have, which is very fucked up.
Wow. So that one guy had 387 toes. That's
exactly right.
Wow. Man, that is very strange. Very, very strange decision on his part to make.
Scott Snyder's a horror writer, you know?
So yeah, he is trying to defeat Red Hood 1 and discovers, he has much to learn if he wants to fight this new breed of costume criminals plaguing Gotham. So this opening was weird as all get out.
Yeah.
So first of all, it opens with this little tiny couple page thing of this kid fishing in a flooded Gotham, and he catches what looks like a koi. So I'm guessing someone's pond flooded as part of this giant flood that happened. And
makes sense.
Then he gets attacked by these hooded guys. So I'm like, clearly this will tie in to the Red Hood stuff later. And it never comes back.
It does not. No. They have like these weird, like full face masks with like big teethy mouths on them. And they're like, gotcha. And being like really creepy. And they never show up ever again.
Yeah. So that was a weird choice. Batman shows up with a version of his suit where he gets to show off his guns. And by guns,
I was very happy about that personally, but
by guns, of course, we mean his amazing biceps, because Batman doesn't use guns. Come on. Yeah. And then this thing that's consistent in the Red Hood storyline, and then goes away, is these masks that he's using for disguises that, are like the ones straight out of Mission Impossible, where he can like just look like someone else. It's very, again,
amazing.
An odd choice for Batman.
Yeah.
Batman, more like Darkman. Am I right, people?
I've not seen Mission Impossible. I just rolled with the goof.
Okay, but that was actually a Darkman goof. But let's move on. So in the story, then, Bruce meets his maternal uncle, Philip Kane, who's not a character I was familiar with. I didn't know if he was new to this or if he's an existing character.
I was only familiar with the Kane family as like a general kind of concept, because we had read Batwoman and I'd read Final Crisis prior. I didn't know who Philip was. I just kind of accepted it and moved on.
Just the name was like, oh, this is a name that's within Gotham. Let's use that. But he refuses to take over Wayne Enterprises. We see a flashback then where Bruce's dad is showing him this cool looking black orb. And he talks about how it's like the world's first 3-dimensional camera. And the best part was the panel where Bruce, like little kid Bruce, is holding it and looks incredibly bored. So I had to screenshot and post that where he's like, world's first 3-dimensional camera. I'm bored.
Yeah. What a small child.
Yeah. But he actually has some cool ideas for it. Like he wants to use it for rescue operations and stuff. So people could throw it into a building that had collapsed or, some sort of disaster situation and fully map the area for rescue teams and stuff, which, that's a very good use of a 3D camera. But of course, you just assume someone is going to steal that technology and somehow twist it for evil, nefarious means. But at the same time, does it ever come back up? Not really.
Not really.
And we are introduced to a young but still adult Edward Nygma, who works for Philip, his uncle, as his strategist. And he works in that room from every movie where there's strings all over the place, connecting the dots between his crazy conspiracy theories. But his are riddle based, so it's a little different.
Yeah. But I feel like if I had a bunch of conspiracy theories, I'd just write them down.
Yeah.
Stringing up strings just seems like way too much work.
Well, how else are you going to connect them on your wall, though?
Or I'll just write them down and just like kind of, that one actually connects. And I can tell because I can read them in an organized list rather than this fucking wrecking my room and not being able to get anywhere because I'm covered with string.
But what happened? I mean, that's not very dramatic when the cops show up to take you down.
Well, I don't want them to take me down. This is the problem. As soon as they bust in, they're like, "Oh, he's got some pads of paper," and it's like, "Yeah, it's not illegal."
Yeah,
string in your house, that's illegal.
But yeah, Philip's strategist being Edward Nygma is an interesting kind of wrinkle in the story here. But he is basically trying to convince Philip, like, "Hey, everyone kind of thinks Bruce was dead, but now he's back. But what if we kind of killed him to get public sympathy for the company and make sure there's no power struggle?" And I'm like, that is a weird ass and stupid plan, Edward.
That would have been the point that I'm like, you're fired as my strategist. Yes, I don't want you working for me anymore.
I just imagine that scene from The Simpsons where he presents the idea and then goes, "I'm fired, aren't I?" So Philip, of course, refuses because, he's not completely insane. Yeah. And then Edward then hires the Red Hood gang to murder Bruce because Philip just won't go through with this amazing murder plan.
This amazing plan. It's so good.
Yeah. And then Bruce rescues Oswald Cobblepot from the Red Hood because they have basically Wayne Tech guns that have been modified. They're supposed to be non-lethal, but they've modified them so that they can liquefy your insides. And they show this as a guy getting shot with it in the first time and him being like, "Everything hurts," which I'm like, okay.
You say so, buddy.
It was a good panel. He's trying to figure out who the Red Hood is, but he keeps failing to uncover that. It's like he's kept his identity secret for so long, and all of his goons are being like blackmailed. So they don't have a direct connection other than whoever Red Hood 1 is has something on them so that they have to follow his gang.
Yeah.
They even show like them robbing different places and they're interacting. And he's like, "Oh, I'm just a teacher." He's like, "Hey, shut up. We're not supposed to know anything about each other." Like the two goons talking. So yeah, it's one of those, like, it's an interesting concept for a gang. It's a little bit of a twist on the normal, like, all the guys wear the same thing, where, Batman villain, where there's a little more reason to it than just, we're just a bunch of thugs who, since Joker's our boss, we all paint our faces with clown makeup. And, so yeah, he, fails to stop him, and Red Hood gets away with the cool space guns that Wayne Tech is. You'd think there'd be some kind of failsafe to prevent this gun from being tampered with to make it melt people's insides.
I think it's implied that Philip was being very lax.
Yes.
In the last few years. This is kind of his fault here.
Yeah, that's fair. He's a terrible boss. They kind of make that clear. He's not very good. They make it pretty clear that without Bruce coming back to step in the traditional Bruce Wayne role that we know him for, like a lot of the evil business deals go down because Phillips kind of gets desperate and lets other people walk all over him, and he's like, "No, these are non-lethal unless you pay me a lot of money. Then I guess we can make them lethal."
No, I guess we can just kind of like turn this little knob here and whoopsies, liquid kidneys.
Not my fault. I didn't turn the knob. Someone else did. So Bruce retreats again from the media. He's trying to kind of like stay out of the limelight, but he's forced back into it with his uncle being like, "Oh, hey, by the way, he's back, everybody."
Yeah. They're in like the museum, and he's like, "Join the company." And Bruce is like, "No." And he's like, "Well," turns the lights on. There's just a bunch of people there.
Right. It was an odd choice.
Weird flex, but okay.
But here Bruce meets Enigma for the first time. So that, you get to see his little bit of interaction there, but it's all just set up for stuff that's going to happen way later. So it seems very kind of random at this point. So he goes to his brownstone where he's attacked by the Red Hood gang. They beat Bruce to a pulp, and the leader tells him that the Wayne's death changed him too. Bruce then retreats to Wayne Manor, where Alfred treats his injuries. Using the camera orb, Bruce finds the cave of bats he fell into as a child. So that is the one time I guess it comes back, is the finding the bat cave.
Yeah, because I think there's like a little flashback where Bruce, as a child, with the camera, falls into the cave.
Right.
And like it takes like an impression, and then he's in his lounging room or whatever as an adult, and the camera somehow turns on and he's like, "The cave."
Yeah.
Oh. And so that's kind of how it comes back.
Yeah. So that's the one tie-in with his sweet camera, because then, as he finds his destiny, the orb falls and breaks. So, that way nobody else, I guess, can find out where his cave is, which I do find funny that the first few times later in the story where they go to the cave, it's, just a literal hole in the ground that they're climbing in and out of.
Yeah. Which very was not glamorous.
Yeah, it was very low rent. So that is kind of where the first part ends, which is kind of strange because the beginning of Dark City wraps up all the stuff with the Red Hood that was being set up here.
Yeah.
So before we move on though, Kieran, what did you think of this initial part?
I mean, honestly, the phrase "weird flex, but okay" really applies to like this entire thing. There were a lot of choices that were made that I thought were interesting. Probably one of the biggest ones was having Batman pull the finger at the very, very start of the story, and instead of his finger, you see a giant box that just says "censored," which really just made me go, okay. So didn't like that. And there was another scene where Bruce and Alfred are talking, and Bruce basically like flips his shit at Alfred, and Alfred then slaps him across the face after Bruce implies that Alfred's a coward. And I just, yeah, I don't want to spoil my final thoughts, but it was all right. You know,
yeah,
I read it. It was a thing that I read.
It was a comic you read.
It was a comic that I read. Yeah. It was, I felt like it was taking the kind of central, the central concept of year one, and that it was like, this is Batman, but he's not very good. And it was really kind of amping it up because Batman / Bruce Wayne at this point, he's like super incompetent the entire way through the story. He is not very good at anything that he does as Batman, but also he kind of sucks.
Yeah. He's a bad person. He's not good at being Bruce Wayne or Batman. He gets a dumbass shaved head like haircut that just looks terrible. Like through the whole movie.
Bad.
Yeah.
It is so bad.
It makes him look like a total goon. Like he just looks, he doesn't have the suave persona Bruce Wayne thing yet. So it's just him basically he's acting like an angsty teen, but he's supposed to be 25. Which I guess, I think with the age they're trying to go for, like he's had enough time to have traveled the world and trained, but it still felt a little old. Was it me? Like, I don't know. 25 seems a bit late for Batman to just be starting out at all. But I don't know.
I'm 25. I could be Batman.
I mean, I believe you, but you also don't have billions of dollars that I'm aware of. I mean, I don't know your financial situation.
I definitely don't have billions of dollars.
Okay. I was going to say, if you did, you should hire me to just do this podcast full time because.
Well, yeah, obviously. No, I wouldn't hire you to do the podcast. I would donate to the Patreon.
As Jim Davis.
Inks and Issues. As Jim Davis, yeah.
Secretly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my impression too, this is the Secret City I liked the least out of all three parts of this, but by a lot, because we're introduced to this version of Batman who is not good at being Batman, which is fine because he wasn't yet in year one, but he's also like a bad person, which I didn't like. Like he genuinely does not feel like a good person yet. And that's kind of part of the growth. And him and Alfred butting heads is one thing, but actively like he's doing the whole, like, you're not my real dad thing the whole time. Like, super angsty teen, and just everything Alfred says he throws back in his face. And there's a consistent thing that I really hated in this book, which you mentioned, which was the censored swearing and giving the fingers. And I'm like, if you can't say the words in your comic book, don't put them in there. Yeah. Unless it's for comedic effect.
You know what it reminded me of in a bad way?
Agents of Hate?
Agents of Hate. As soon as I saw that censored box, I was like, ugh, Agents of Hate. Blah, blah,
yeah, blah. Exactly.
And I just got mad. It was stupid. It didn't serve any point, and it just made me not like Bruce.
Right. And they also changed quite a bit of like his dad's like more down to earth and like, I work on cars and I hang out with my kid. And it's like, you're supposed to be this surgeon who's kind of stoic. And I mean, I know this is like a reinvention, but I just didn't buy it at all. Like it didn't land for his parents. Don't work for me in this version.
There are a couple other things that I'll talk about, but we'll move on. Unless you have anything else to add about Secret City.
They also, is this where they introduce like the Sphinx and the board game motif, because that'll come back. So I don't know if we had mentioned that. Okay.
Yeah. So when Bruce meets the Riddler, they're in front of the Sphinx, and they end up talking about like an ancient board game. It's like a spiral board game. Yeah, which that panel was like, I get what you're going for, but it was not. Yeah, it was not well designed for a comic book. It was not easy to read. No. And like there was just a lot of grey space around it as well, which seemed kind of just a waste. But yeah. I don't make comics, so what do I know?
Exactly. So anyway, I guess that brings us to part 2, which is Dark City. So why don't you take that?
I shall. So we begin with Bruce as Batman stopping another Red Hood robbery, and soon after learning Red Hood 1's plan. Bruce reveals to the media, as Bruce Wayne, that the Red Hood gang is planning to rob Ace Chemicals, so the gang tries to kill him. Bruce goes into Ace Chemicals as Batman and begins fighting the gang. Philip, is Uncle Philip, who was blackmailed into joining the gang, tries to shoot Red Hood 1, but misses, which is a bad move, because Red Hood 1 shoots and kills Philip. Sergeant Jim Gordon raids Ace Chemicals with SWAT officers intent on arresting both Batman and Red Hood 1, but the building catches on fire. Red Hood 1 tries to escape on a helicopter, but Batman pulls him back into the building. Batman tries to capture Red Hood 1, but the masked criminal escapes by jumping into a vat of chemicals, which is not really an escape so much as he just tries to kill himself. But yeah, semantics.
Or did he?
Oh, who's to know?
So that is definitely what happened in this one. So that initial part, wrapping up the other story, was, I don't know, it just didn't quite do it. There was a couple cool parts in the fight scene, like how he they constantly show him like playing with his grappling hook earlier in the previous part, and you finally get a little payoff to that where he uses it to use a giant burly dude to kind of bowl over the rest of the guys, because they're all trying to walk down like this walkway in the factory at him. I'm like, okay, that was a good callback to him playing around with that grappling hook like earlier in the book. Yeah. And they do kind of imply throughout the story like that the original Red Hood was replaced at some point, so they're setting up the fact that in some versions of Joker's origin he was the Red Hood, and then he then he fell in the chemicals and then became Joker. So it's pretty obvious that's where they're going with that, if you know that bit of backstory, that at some point the Joker, being the Joker, had taken over the gang, because they find the body of the original guy once they finally figure out who he is, and he just kind of seems like some nobody. Like, I didn't recognize that character at all. The one that...
No.
Yeah. And they find his body in a barrel with lye, so he's like partially dissolved and they can't tell how long he's been there. Yeah. Which means they have no idea how long the other guy has been Red Hood 1. And his plans are very Joker-y, because he's like, we're going to release all these crazy chemicals on the city. I'm like, yeah, that's Joker's MO right there. So,
oh, yeah, for sure.
So I did like that wrinkle in that character, because it was very boilerplate, like, haha, I'm the generic villain you can't stop, Batman, until like this part of that arc. I'm like, okay, now this is kind of coming together for me a little bit.
Yeah. I agree with you. Like the kind of like the wrap up to this, the whole time I was just comparing it to when Batman is in the apartment building in year 1, surrounded by the police officers, and that's a much shorter scene with a lot less action, but it's just better.
It's much better, yes.
Yeah,
but I don't want to get too much into final thoughts. No. But I think people might be able to tell where we're going to be going with those when we hit that.
Yeah. Okay. So we continue on. Bruce and Alfred study data on the gang when Edward Nygma, as the Riddler, now just the Riddler, shuts off power in Gotham, challenging Batman to turn it back on. Soon, the police find a body with its bones twisted and grown out of its skin. Batman finds out a scientist working with Lucius Fox had created it says program in the notes, but I meant to change that to serum, had created a serum that had similar effects. Bruce goes to visit Fox, but Fox stabs Bruce with the toxin, stating that the program was also his, and that Dr. Death is coming. Bruce wakes to see Fox being attacked by Dr. Death. Bruce stops him with the help of Gordon, and Fox informs him that the substance he injected him with earlier was an experimental antidote for Dr. Death's bone toxin. However, the fight with Dr. Death puts Bruce in the hospital. Bruce is confronted by Gordon at the hospital, but Bruce feels he cannot trust him. This is the point in the book where you tweeted at me that panel where Bruce's face just looks really weird.
The art gets very strange once it's Bruce and Alfred in the Batcave. Like, Is it a different artist for this part? Because it looks...
I'm guessing so.
It looks very different and not... Like, they both look like very meathead type dudes for some reason. Like, Alfred's head is way too wide and Bruce looks... I don't know. It's just bizarre. I don't understand the choice there. And again, arguing just back and forth. And even when they show the Riddler for the first time, he looks just off. Like, this whole section just must have been a different artist or something, because it's very different looking.
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe it is a different artist.
Okay, and it's not even that the art is bad; it just doesn't fit these characters. No.
Yeah, the art is still good, but for this story, and considering that the art was a certain style prior, it's a weird tone shift.
It sticks out really bad.
Bruce as Batman searches for Dr. Death's next victim, but is too late as Dr. Death has already reached them. The police corner Batman and open fire, mistakenly believing that he is the murderer based on literally no evidence whatsoever because they're dumbasses.
Yeah.
Batman is badly wounded, but Gordon helps him escape. Gordon and Batman then begin a tenuous partnership. They kiss just a little bit. Batman then goes to Gotham. That doesn't happen. Batman then goes to Gotham's catacombs, a popular tourist attraction, to find Dr. Death and the Riddler, having deduced that the two criminals are working together. Dr. Death and the Riddler then flood the catacombs. Batman uses his Bat Blimp to stop the Riddler's airship and bomb. Batman arrives at his airship and tries to use a jammer device to stop the bomb. As his blimp explodes, Batman jumps onto the airship where Dr. Death is waiting to fight him. Gordon arrives at Wayne Tower only to find the Riddler there and falls into one of his traps. Dr. Death and Batman fight briefly, but the villain drops the jammer off the airship. Oh no. After subduing Dr. Death, Batman sets off a bomb that destroys the inside of the airship, and Dr. Death is killed in the explosion. The police then turn the power back on, only to find out the Riddler still has the power to flood the city by blowing up the reservoir. Womp womp. Batman destroys the airship, but fails to stop the Riddler from flooding the city.
Yep. So Dr. Death was an interesting villain. Like, I was not familiar with him if he existed before.
I had never heard of him before.
But he basically was a guy who, because like most Batman villains, started with a noble cause. He wanted to basically make a serum that you could inject, and it would make it so your bones would harden on the point of impact. So that way, like, a soldier got shot in the head and their skull would actually harden at that point, and they wouldn't have their brains blown out by a bullet. So it's like he had some good ideas that just went horribly wrong, because what happens to everyone else when they're injected with this, we get some really gnarly scenes of these like kind of exploded skeletons that like their bones just start growing into like crazy tree shapes and stuff, and it's really disturbing.
I thought it was cool. The bone, trees that they grow into were very cool.
Yeah, it was cool. This is my favorite section, I have to say, out of this entire book.
Yeah.
So because there was a little mystery to it. Like, I didn't know who this character was, so I didn't have like the beats down of like, this is the standard arc for this character, like this villain of Batman, how that usually goes, which is not necessarily like a slam on it. It's just, that's kind of what you expect from superhero comics,
Yeah, exactly.
So I liked that Lucius Fox was kind of introduced early because, he plays such a key role later in Wayne Tech becoming a thing and where Batman gets all his cool gadgets. That said, Batman has way too many gadgets for it being his first like year of being Batman. He has a lot of gadgets. Blimp, and they make like comments about how, he donated all those police blimps, which I think was just kind of like a gag playing on the fact that they always draw blimps into the background of Gotham City for some reason, like Zeppelins, because, those are so common in the cities, just flying around with the police lights everywhere.
Blimps. Yeah.
Everyone, everybody has those. But then the fact that he comes in with a blimp that's like 10 times bigger than the police blimps. So
fucking big. Is the biggest blimp I've ever seen in my fucking life.
And then he's explaining how it works, and I'm like, I don't think the science on that adds up, but I'm no blimpologist.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not a blimpologist. I don't know.
But anyway, that was odd. Tonally, this one was all over the place. I just really liked the villain because it's like he had kind of gotten the serum working a bit for himself somehow, where points of impact would like then grow. So as they're fighting more over the course of the comic, he's getting more and more like twisted, and like he starts like he gets punched in the head, so he kind of starts growing horns, and it's really crazy looking. But I thought it was a cool effect.
Dr. Death was a very cool villain, like in terms of like what he did, and also just like how he looked and how he kind of like functioned, I guess. Like I was honestly, I think if Dr. Death hadn't been in this section, I would have enjoyed it significantly less.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
as you say, that made me like it.
Yeah, as you say, it is tonally all over the place. Like it is tonally all over the place. Let's go with that for now.
Yeah.
And we can revisit it at the end.
The Gordon dynamic with Bruce and Batman is very different in this book.
Quite different. Especially, and also there is another censored box in this section as well, so that's a few points off.
Yeah,
when he shows up, when he shows up in the 90-foot long blimp, it says it's the censored Batman, and it's supposed to be like it's the goddamn Batman, which is one of my like least favorite phrases in comics. Like I'm the goddamn Batman. It's like no, get out. No, he wouldn't.
Yeah, it's that thing of people not understanding what makes a character like intimidating. You don't need that extra flair. It's like when someone pointed out to me, you know what? This is a Star Wars thing, but remember in episode 3 when he's finally Darth Vader in the suit, and it's the very, very last scene. It's just him and the Emperor standing there, and Vader crosses his arms, and you're like, that's not Vader. You blew it. Like, he does not need to cross his arms to look big and intimidating. He just stands there.
He just is.
Because he's that much of a badass. That's what it makes me think of. It's like Batman doesn't need to say anything or do anything. He just exists.
Exactly. He just is. You know what they say? Confidence is sexy. But confidence can also be intimidating if you're a superhero or a Dark Lord of the Sith.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's also
what they always say.
This weird side story called "Where the Hell Did He Learn to Drive?" Did your version have that weird
aside? It was so odd.
Where it's him and some drug lord or something, and he's like ripping around in this vehicle and just showing like, this is why Batman knows how to drive good in the Batmobile.
Yeah, it's like, okay, sure. Yeah.
There's also one that's called That One Time, and I'm like,
oh yeah.
Like what were they doing with this naming convention? Like Dark City, Savage City, that one time. So this is
Secret
like his
City.
Iron Man moment.
Lemonade with my grandparents.
Yeah. So this is fully on just like that scene in Iron Man where he's in the cave and has to get out, except instead it's like by choice, and this crazy Russian scientist guy that has a monkey. And
that is a DC character that exists.
So. Okay. So he has to build using like scraps from this contraption he had made. So the guy purposely breaks the stuff he was going to use to get out of this trap to prove how awesome he is. And, fashion, I guess, some kind of crazy cyber gloves that he could dig his way out with. So he does that. And when he comes out, he's very Frankenstein's monster looking. For some reason, yes. I guess when Bruce Wayne gets sweaty, that's what he looks like.
I mean, to be fair, I look like Frankenstein's monster if I sweat too much.
Well, I mean, it happens to the best of us. Then there's the other part, which I guess didn't deserve a goofy ass name, and it's where he's thrown in. Oh, it's just called In the Pit. Okay, well, fair enough. And it's just about him like fighting a bunch of dudes, and the leader of this tribe that he's training with, she tells him like, oh, you have to kill because if you don't kill, your enemies just keep coming and coming and coming. And I'm like, hey, guess what? She's right. But, Batman still doesn't kill, but it does actually happen that way with his villains, which I thought was an interesting twist in it. But what happens instead is Batman beats all of these dudes so badly that they don't want to get back up. That's kind of the point. It's like,
yeah.
Well, what he's going to do is punch you so hard that you're just going to be like, okay, I'll be good now. He'll punch the evil right out of you. So that was like some weird asides at the end of that volume, I thought.
Yeah. They were there.
All right. Well, that leads us into the last story arc within this, which is called Savage City. Here we see Bruce Wayne awakening in the Duke residence, having removed the batsuit before falling asleep, conveniently. A young boy whose life he had saved informs him that the Riddler has taken control of Gotham. Alfred tells Batman to return to Wayne Manor through the secret entrance in the now dilapidated crime alley, the site of his parents' murder for those playing along at home.
Hey, Bruce, why don't you just, your parents were gunned down in front of you and you were traumatized forever? Go there.
Yeah. Good call on that one, I think. No bad memories would ever prevent him from enacting justice on villains. That never will come back to haunt him.
Never, ever.
Meanwhile, the military has sent in special forces soldiers to Gotham to meet up with Gordon and try and restore the peace, which, doesn't go as planned because the Riddler is just too clever.
He's too smart.
Yes. The Riddler uses the giant Jumbotron every single day to tell the people of Gotham that all he wants is a worthy opponent. So he wants someone to step up and try and ask him a riddle that he can't solve. That's basically his big thing. He wants someone to
step up and kiss him on the mouth.
Yeah. So the funny thing is with that is he will... One guy steps up and he does the riddle thing, but then it's got a trap door that drops you into a arena full of. It starts as hyenas, but as we'll see, he upgrades later. So yeah, that's a thing Riddler is doing because that's what we think of when we think of Riddler is dropping people into. Getting eaten by hyenas. Mm-hmm. But as he's doing his Jumbotron thing, he spots that Gordon and the special forces guys are up on the roofs and sends drones because he just has drones upon drones everywhere and sends them over to stop them. So this is a world of blimps and drones. We see those a lot. And also there's some other robots that look very much like the big dogs, the big dog robots from Boston Dynamics. If you haven't seen those, look them up. They're very goofy looking. So Riddler tries to destroy the building they're on by playing dominoes. And that is where he knocks over one building because since they're all, all falling
so witty,
with a crane with like a wrecking ball, and they start knocking over the other buildings. And I'm like, that is a thing that would work. But Batman saves them. The next day, Riddler appears on the screen again to say that he will dedicate this 0 year to the people of Gotham. So he says the title. He gets the prize, I guess.
Yep, he does.
But yeah, that's a thing that they keep referring to as like, this is the 0 year because he started everything over because he took over Gotham and they've been without power this entire time. That's something I don't know if we have mentioned yet.
So, there's no power in the city.
Yeah, so Batman in his new costume, which is the one he kind of threw together from stuff he was able to find around the city, comes driving up on a sweet motorcycle, and he accepts the challenge of the Riddler to basically buy time so that Lucius Fox can use like a tapping thing that Gordon has like climbed up the tower and attached to try and find the Riddler's location. Because that's one of the things is like the signal is being bounced all over the place, so they can't track it very easily. Because
exactly.
Of course, that'd be like the easy solution. It's like, well, just trace the signal. That's a thing that you do in every comic and movie.
Yeah.
So he's stalling the Riddler and then eventually gets dropped into the pit and is prepared to fight hyenas, but the Riddler has upgraded to lions. So he has
and
to
the lions have guns.
Improvise. What's that?
The lions have guns.
Yes, the lions have guns, and when they roar, it shoots bees out of their mouths. And the bees have also guns, smaller guns.
The bees have guns, but when they fire the guns, it just shoots out smaller bees.
Yes, exactly. It's just bees all the way down. Bees with I felt really bad for the lions when Batman has to, like, I mean, granted, you don't want Batman to die, but at the same time, he's like pretty much murdering a bunch of lions down in this.
It's like, oh no, bees.
Man, I got you good with the bees.
For some reason, I don't know why. Like, I find the idea of just like, oh no, bees, just really funny.
Then do I have a clip from the Legend of Zelda cartoon for you? I will send that to you after the show.
Please do.
No, don't let me forget that.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt really bad. He was just like beating up a bunch of lions.
Yeah, I felt bad.
And everyone was like, yeah, go Batman. I was like, these lions didn't do anything to you.
They're just lions. Like, I feel bad.
They're just lying around.
They need to, he should have just figured out a way to get them out of that pit. Come on. But then he tries to drop a whole bunch of cars on Batman's head because he beat the lions. So they escape. They keep trying to find the Riddler using their tracking thing, but of course it ends up being a trap again. Lucius gets injured in the process because he gets shot at a whole bunch of times by one of those robot drone things. Fortunately, it's not too bad because it's just like he got grazed in the shoulder type of thing, which is one of those very movie/comic things that always happens when one of the characters that isn't allowed to die yet gets shot.
Yeah, he's like, it's just in my shoulder, one of the most complicated areas of bone and muscle in the entire human body that I require to do many basic tasks.
Right. It's fine.
Just put a bandage on it. It hasn't like shattered my clavicle or anything.
Nah, it's fine. The soldiers that had come in then have called in an airstrike to basically level Gotham City while Batman is trying to find the Riddler. So they now are on this time crunch of like, oh great, so now we have to play his last game, stop everything, stop the Riddler, restore power so that we can get a signal to these guys. So the special forces guys just complicated everything times 1,000 because this airstrike is designed to basically there's some kind of missile that's going to like dig in and then explode and basically sink the entire city into the bay. So that's an odd plan on their part. It's not like the Riddler's some all powerful being. Like, I know I maybe shouldn't even ask this because I don't know what else is going on in the DC universe, but isn't Superman around somewhere? Like, couldn't they just call him? Like,
I think at the point in time that this story is taking place, he's only just like come public. Like he's not Superman just yet. He's just a guy who flies around real fast and tries to save people and hope that no one recognizes him. He's not actually Superman just yet.
Okay, that's fair. It just seems like, occasionally you hit that point. But Batman is Batman. He can't call in other people. Especially because he doesn't know them yet.
Justice League, please help me. And they're like, who is this? How'd you get this number?
Yeah. And we aren't even a thing yet.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
Riddler has then challenged Batman to solve a series of riddles which take place on the board that we saw earlier, but it's a giant version. And his strings have come back in the form of lasers. And if he trips any of the lasers, then it will set off those balloons that he has all over the city that will release the toxic gas. So it all comes full circle with the toxic gas and the balloons and everything.
I mean, I guess.
I mean, it does though. So every time he answers correctly, he gets to step one step closer. And by the end, he needs to be able to turn on the power and whatnot, I guess, so that everyone doesn't die. That's, I guess, his priority. Gordon and Fox find a way to stop the Jets from destroying Gotham by creating a bat signal, which is him drawing the bat symbol on what it was just like a giant mirror.
I think it was like a big mirror, and then he like reflects it up into the Jets, and they're like, oh, we don't understand. Back to base for more orders, and they sort of buy it at a time.
Yeah. And, Batman grabs the Riddler to stop the game, beats him up a bit as you do. And, then the Riddler reveals that to save Gotham, Batman must use his own heart to turn the city's power back on. He must attach himself to an electrode
Okay, I'm going to immediately spill some of my final thoughts here. This is some of the biggest horse shit I've ever read in my life.
It's very dumb, and he successfully electrocutes himself and then is saved by Alfred by... He attaches the thing that's the Riddler symbol on his chest in the same spot Tony Stark's, like, arc, whatever that thing is called.
The arc conductor, is that what it's called?
And then has to, like, use a defibrillator on himself. It's a very weird scene. And then
so odd. And like, it just comes out of fucking nowhere as well.
So 1 month later, Gotham is back to normal already somehow. The Riddler is the first inmate of Arkham Asylum, they imply, but I don't think he's going to get better by being in a head to toe straitjacket with the strings, like, in the background being like ropes that are tying him in place. Like, he literally cannot move and is in a padded cell.
Yeah.
It's like, this guy just does riddles. You realize that, right? He's not like, he's not Solomon Grundy that can, like, punch through a wall or something.
Yeah. Like, there is no need to do this. And also, there was no need to be nuking the city. They're really freaking out here.
Yeah. So at the very end, Bruce gets a visit from an old flame, Julie Madison. Alfred is trying to basically hook them up so that Bruce will live a normal life. And he kind of has a flash forward of, like, they reconnect and start a family, and Bruce is, like, grows old and has kids and is happy. But of course, Bruce is just like, nah, I'm married to being Batman. And that's the end. Kieran, I think you have some opinions on this comic.
We also find out that Bruce nearly underwent a voluntary shock therapy to try and erase the memory of his parents' death, which was also completely out of nowhere.
Yes, and that just paralleled the him shocking himself scene was the idea. Which totally didn't work for me. But go ahead and start with your final thoughts. I don't want to jump the gun here.
Okay. There were some things in here that I really liked. There were like Dr. Death was very cool, as we already discussed.
Right.
I think some of the art was really good. When he has the 3D camera on and he's like standing at the window and the bats are coming in. That was such a cool panel, I thought. And I thought the characterization of Alfred, only Alfred, I'm going to say, was actually pretty good. I enjoyed this version of Alfred. Probably in that it was like the truest to like the original character. He cares about Bruce. He's very much like a father figure. Or he's not even really a father figure to him. He's just someone who really wants to like take care of him. And, you know, he's against him being the Batman, but he still supports him.
Right. He keeps saying how he'll always be there to patch him up, even if he doesn't agree with him.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Which is what Alfred's about.
Yeah.
And you know, like, and as we said, you know, and with like the Red Hood and stuff like that, there was some cool like action scenes and stuff like that. And, you know, when he's going through the blimp to like get to the balloon, to try and, you know, defeat Dr. Death and things like that, all like cool stuff. But God, it was just all over the place. It was tonally all over the place for me. There were so many, like, funny moments, quote unquote, that they didn't earn because there was so much other serious stuff in it that they equally didn't earn because they hadn't set them up properly or they came out of nowhere. Like, I understand what they were trying to do with, you got to use your heart to restart the power for Gotham, because he's always asking, like, you know, what do you love about Gotham? But it just never lands properly. And, you know, when he does that, when he's like, you have to use your heart on this electrode to restart the power, it's like, well, that's just stupid. That doesn't it makes no sense.
Right. Your metaphor got away from you there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cause see, Batman's the heart of Gotham.
Yeah, but it's like, you didn't set this up from the beginning. So it doesn't come back. And, you know, as we discussed, I mean, what did you think of Bruce? What did you think of Bruce Wayne?
I hated Bruce Wayne in this comic. Normally he is a billionaire superhero vigilante, and he has never felt more like an entitled prick than in this comic.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with that. Like, in a lot of the other versions of Batman that we've read, he's always been very much like, you can really get a sense from him that he is being Batman because he feels it's the right thing to do. That it's a way to kind of honor what happened to his parents and try and make a bit of difference in the world. In this one, it just seems like he wants to be Batman because of just sheer pig-headedness.
Yes. Then what I said earlier about 25 seeming a bit old, a lot of that boiled down to his attitude. Like, he felt like a rebellious teenager still, even though he's supposed to be in his mid-20s, which is like, I don't know, it didn't track for me. Like, he felt a lot younger than he was supposed to be. And someone who was that disciplined and did all that training and went, traveled the world and all this stuff, it just didn't line up. Like you said, he feels like he's Batman for selfish reasons, whereas he should not. He should feel like he's putting his own life aside to be Batman, not
exactly.
I'm being Batman because I'm awesome. And that is where I'm the goddamn Batman falls flat, is because that's him saying I'm awesome, therefore I am the Batman. Whereas normally it's like I am Batman because the city needs me to be Batman.
Exactly. Yeah. Like there are multiple moments where like he's failed and he says, no, like I can make this work, as opposed to I should try and make this work because of these reasons to do with my parents or to do with the city or whatever. It is always about him. Yep. It's always about how he needs to try harder, how he needs to, train more to make this work because it is his idea and he has to be successful in this. There's no, he still wants to save the city, but that's not his primary concern, or doesn't come across as his primary concern. Yeah.
So I also have some thoughts on Jim Gordon, who, again, this version of Jim Gordon, I didn't like.
Nope.
He is just another border, like pretty much corrupt cop. He's a little more on the right side of the law, but he just kind of tolerates that all the other cops are crooked. Yeah. Oh, there's a confrontation where he tracks where his partner is going and he finds like a dog fighting ring and is like, I'm going to turn you guys in. And then they sick all the dogs on him. He's like, oh, well, our boss, was he the commissioner, right? Like Commissioner Loeb, wink, 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 which also was one of those, like, I know naming characters after other like comic writers and artists is a normal thing to do. But when your name is as distinct as Loeb, it's kind of sticks out really, really badly and feels forced and felt very winky. Which, whatever. It's like, I like Jeff Loeb's Batman, so I get why they wanted to, like, include a little nod to him. But why did they do it with such a character who is a pile of shit? Because that character, the commissioner, he's the one that's, like, allowing all the cops to be super corrupt. And he's, like, trying to get Gordon killed and trying to get Batman killed so that they continue to be corrupt so that he can make a bunch of money. It's very stupid. But Gordon just felt very disingenuous to what he's supposed to stand for, because like he comes from they say Boston, Chicago. Okay, so he comes from Chicago and he was like tired of all the corruption, so he comes to Gotham and it's even worse. And normally that is why Gordon is super straight-laced and just starts kicking ass and taking names, because he's so done with everyone's corruption. And in this, he just kind of like is forced to play along, I guess, because they're like threatening his family. But it's like Jim never takes that. Like they threaten his family, he puts them in a safe house and then goes and like beats the crap out of them. Which he has literally done in other books.
This Jim Gordon felt so weak and not very interesting, and just like normally when Jim Gordon shows up in Batman, I'm like, hell yeah, Jim Gordon, like time to like, really get things rolling here. But every time he showed up in this, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I didn't care. I didn't care about him.
Yeah, he was a pale imitation, I think, of the Jim Gordon that's our dad.
Our dad. Yeah, exactly. This is not my dad.
So, I totally agree. This was all over the map. Tonally, and just, I don't know, it didn't land for me at all. Like, would you recommend this book to anybody?
Oh gosh. Would I recommend it? I'm gonna be honest. I probably wouldn't. That's not to say that, like, it's not, I would hesitate to say it's bad. I would really hesitate to say, this is bad. It's not it's not a good story. It has, the art is bad, blah, 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 blah. But if someone was like, oh, can I, I really want to read some Batman. God, there are much better Batman stories out there. There are much, much better Batman stories out there. Long Halloween, Year One. I mean, Batman TMNT is way more ridiculous, but is a better story. It is a better Batman story.
I was going to say, it understands Batman better than this book did.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
And that was a thing we talked about in that episode, was as goofy as crossovers can get, if they actually understand all the characters involved, that's what makes a good crossover. And in that one, they definitely did. And for being his new retold origin, and as far as I know, this is like, is this still the standard? Like, is this still what they consider his origin, or did they reboot him with all the rebirth stuff?
I think they rebooted with all the rebirth stuff.
Because now I'm very curious to read that, off show and like report back, because I don't like this version at all. I would never recommend this at all. Like, the art is kind of, I liked the art in a lot of the scenes. I liked Dr. Death, but that was pretty much it. Like, this is a heavy pass for me. Like, I would say, oh, you want to read Batman's origin? Year One, that is still the standard. And it's like that.
God. Yeah. Yeah.
It's Frank Miller literally at his best, because, oh boy, did that guy go off the deep end. I personally would hesitate to call it bad, in that, like, there were bits about it that I did enjoy, but as a Batman story, it's not very good. I didn't think. Yeah. And it's also, I think, harder to give a pass to something that's so big as a reboot of Batman, of all things. Like, it has to nail it 100%. Well, not even like 80%. I think it's still pretty passable. I think this nailed it about 30 to 40% at best.
So there were a lot of missteps here.
Yeah. So for me, a hard pass. So. All right. Well, I think that's going to take us to the end. We have now officially reviewed a Batman book we don't like, which is why I set that up at the beginning of this episode.
There we go. We're never reading Batman again.
We'll talk about Batman again someday, but that day is going to be a while. The problem is Batman is in so many of those crossovers we've talked about doing, because it's like, oh, it's set in the DC universe, so Batman's probably going to show up. As he does. But anyway, that'll bring us to a close. So, Kieran, where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet. I am at Mr. K_Bennett on Twitter. You can also check out my D&D podcast, which is for Crits and Giggles. That is at for CNG Podcast on Twitter. Jonah, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Spambot. And I have also been working on getting our Patreon stuff out on time. So that's been one of my big goals, is getting updated content for people. And, we got episodes coming out early if you're a patron at the $5 level. And we got the monthly polls. So I've been trying to keep up on that and comment back to people. So interacting with us on there is always a good way to get a hold of us, because we both see those. So that's kind of cool. We also have the Twitter account for the show, which is at Inks and Issues. And we'll post when there's updates on the Patreon. We'll post, like, when I'm streaming, I'll try and make sure I post there, because I've done some Twitch streaming lately. Twitch.tv/Inks and Issues, of course, because, hashtag strong brand.
Branding. Need more mutants, metahumans, and monsters in your life? Then check out these other Geeklying shows like Brute Force, Cast of Thrones, or You're a Wizard, Harry. Help us make the show the best that it can be by supporting us at patreon.com/Inks and Issues, where you can get bonus content, early access to episodes, and can even vote on comics for us to review. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review to help us spread the word. Interact with us on Twitter at Inks and Issues, or on Twitch at twitch.tv/Inks and Issues. Now do yourself a favor and go read some gosh dang comics.
And with that, we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye. I love you. Do 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 do.